Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today, this video that I've got for you is one that's long overdue actually, and I really have no real reason why I haven't reviewed this car before. But today is the day that I will review this car, and to be honest, I will probably put out a better review of this car, having owned it for quite a long time now and for a few kilometers. To be more precise, I think I've owned this car from April 2020, so I've owned this car for 5 years now, and when I bought it, it had 131,000 kilometers, and right now it's with 152,600 kilometers. I've put 22,000 kilometers on this car. All of these 20,000, or 99% of these 20,000 were done by me actually. Going straight to the specs of this car, just to get that out of the way. This car in stock form, when it came from the factory 20 years ago, it put out 343 horsepower to the crank and 365, I think, let me check, 365 Newton meters, and it revved to a glorious 8,000 RPM. So 343 horsepower from a 3.2 liter engine. If I'm not mistaken, that's even a higher specific output than the McLaren F1. Why this comparison? No idea, but I saw it online and I found it interesting. This engine, it's actually a jewel of an engine. I've heard many people say bad things about this engine. Oh, it doesn't have a lot of torque, it doesn't have a lot of this. And yes, it does not have necessarily the biggest amount of torque, and that will bring me on to one of my biggest gripes. But this car, this engine does not shine at low RPM actually. It wants to be revved out. It's a very rev happy engine, and it sits happily at 5, 6, 7, 8,000 RPM all day, every day. Long-term subscribers might know that I've tracked this car plenty at least for me. I haven't had one single issue with this car. The issues that I've had with this car since I've owned it have been basically caused by me. And I'm specifically talking about the rear wheel catching on the rear arch, actually. Other than that, it's been super reliable. Just regular maintenances every 5,000 kilometers per my discretion, because BMW say, I don't know, 10, 15,000 kilometers. I change oil more frequently than that. It will not harm the engine, it will only benefit the engine. Spark plugs, air filters, all of that basic stuff, brake pads. So it's been regular maintenance that this car has required. Basically, that's it. Zero issues so far. Knock on steel. Of course, I've done preventive maintenance. I've done the rear carrier assembly panel reinforcement plates. I've done the diff with racing diff parts, which from what I've been learning, they aren't necessarily the best parts available, but I mean, they've been working well so far, and I've put this car through its paces when it comes to diff activity. But diff would be something that I'd love to upgrade in the future to a very specific diff, actually. Trying to get over these boring things first, this car, during my ownership, another stat for it, it does 0 to 60 or 0 to 120 kilometers per hour in 5.2 seconds, BMW claims. I really couldn't care less. This car is not necessarily about the performance stats, it's more about how it makes you feel. BMW say it weighs 1,495 kilos, so sub 1,500 kilos. This car has slightly lighter wheels. I might have added some weight here and there, and this is not the lightest of configurations because it has the GPS, the navigation. It does not have a sunroof. That's a godsend to me, at least. Less issues, less weight up there. I like it. But it's probably not the lightest version of this car, but it's close enough, at least to me. And BMW quote 1,495 kilos. I weighed this car on a weighbridge, and it weighed 1,540 kilos with a full tank. Usually these weights, they are with a 75% tank, I think, but I was not inside the car, and usually it's with a 75 kilo driver, I think, as well. Not sure. It's roughly what BMW said, but not necessarily a sub 1,500 kilo car. Before getting this car, I went online and I heard lots of people saying, oh, it's not all that reliable, it's not all that good. And I can imagine that when something goes wrong, it can go wrong badly, yes, but this car has been solid. Actually, the only thing that I can see now, I remembered, that isn't working properly is these sprayers. I'm not entirely sure if the issue is here or at the pump, because they do spray. It's like very, very weak. They barely reach the wipers. My average with this car so far, it's been 13.54 liters per 100 kilometers over 22,000 kilometers. That includes city, motorway, spirited driving, as well as track duty. So over the course of those 22,000 kilometers, this car has managed to put an average of 13.54. It's not brilliant. Modern cars probably will do a better job at that, but nonetheless, for an old car, for a port injection engine and not that sophisticated in terms of fuel economy, I mean, I'm pleased with this car. And since it's not my daily driver, it's a relatively affordable upkeep. All right, now I want to go over all the mods that I did to this car, because big part of owning this car has been doing mods to it. This car, in my opinion, it can be enhanced with a few mods. One of the first mods I did to this car, it was these rims. These are original OEM CSL rims. They are 19-inch and they are slightly wider than the OEM, I think it's 67 style wheel that I also have for this car. They are slightly different to the CS rims. They are very similar in terms of design, but the specs, so I think it's either the width in the front or back, or the offset, or perhaps both, is slightly different. To me, these are the rims to have in this car. Of course, I love seeing this car with some BBSs and the 18 OEM wheels as well. But to me, these suit this car so damn nice. While we are here at the front, this was one of the last mods that I did, and it was these brakes. I had D2 racing brakes, 8-pot 355 or 56 millimeter brakes that came with the car already. I decided to go for these because I was having issues replacing pads on my D2. They were coming to the end of their life. I would need to replace discs and pads soon. And I think it was $1,000 per disc. So I decided, okay, the hell with it. I'll sell the D2 and I'll pay a little bit more to have a brand new set of Brembo brakes, which are actually a nice brand. Originally, I wanted to go with AP Racing, the 5575 kit, I think, a 6-pot as well, but I just couldn't get hold of them. It was more or less, I think it was around COVID time, so I just couldn't get them. They are very, very good. I haven't taken them to the track yet, but for the type of driving I've done with them, brilliant, brilliant brakes. I cannot say that they are a big, big improvement from my D2 brakes, but they are very, very good. And now I have peace of mind that I will be able to find pads and that this is a quality product manufactured by an Italian manufacturer. Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? Another mod that I did to this car, it's very uninteresting, but at the time I loved having that mod done because my lights, they were very old. And I do think that part of the increase in quality that I got was because my lights were old. I went with Osram Nightbreaker lights instead of the CBI because in theory they have a little bit more lumens. At least at the time, I think they did. It's a mod that I do recommend. One of the most transforming mods that I did to this car, I'm also yet to do a proper review on this mod, which is the Öhlins Road and Track suspension. This mod completely transformed the way the car handles. When I got the car, it was running OEM CSL dampers and springs. And the car, while it handled well, going fast, it was very crashy. It wasn't all that sophisticated. By installing Road and Track, I now get a much smoother ride. I get an adjustable ride, and it's very adaptable in the sense that when I'm driving on roads with undulation, it soaks up the bumps much nicer. The car has more traction getting out of corners as well. It puts the power down better, and I have the ability to make them stiffer or softer for if I want to go to the track or if I just want to drive around in regular town. So another mod that I have is PowerFlex bushes. I already bought the car like that, fully PowerFlex. I think it's fully, not entirely sure. I did install the PowerFlex bushing on the rear diff, and I do regret it a little bit because now at 120 kilometers per hour, more or less, I get this whine and it was driving me mad. And then I read somewhere that, yeah, solid bushes on diffs, they do create a little bit of whine, but it's another mod that I have. I do not really recommend on the diff, but on the rest of the suspension, I do think if you want to drive this car more spiritedly, if you do not mind a slightly stiffer car overall, that's a very good mod to do, actually. Another mod that I did, and this is mainly cosmetic. Some people like it, some people don't. I went ahead and I replaced, so my car is a pre-LCI model. I had fully halogen lights here at the back, and now I have these LED lights. I think they look a little bit cleaner. I do understand people that leave the OEMs in, but I do think it freshens up a little bit the rear end of the car. Maybe you can see here, these are getting quite faded. It's a bit sad, but it is what it is. But these, they still look very fresh. And overall, it's a mod that I do enjoy. So another mod that I did, maybe you cannot see it very well, but I'll do my best to show it to you after. It is this little puppy right here that goes all the way to the valve cover and the intake. This is an oil catch can. I'm not the best to explain to you what it does, but basically it catches oil excess that would have otherwise be pumped back into the intake, and it stores it right here. Then you can just pour it out. But this is basically what it does. The other mod that I did, which I do enjoy very much, it was also one of the first mods that I did, is this Alcantara steering wheel. So the steering wheel is the thing that you touch the most, and it absolutely transforms the way that the car feels. 100% recommend. The other thing that I did get, and there's also a video on this, it is this M5 shifter. This is the M5 F10 M5 shifter, which was sold only in North America, if I'm not mistaken. And I ordered this because it naturally reduces the height of this gear knob. So the original one would sit roughly around here, and it was a bit of a broomstick. I got used to it, but I do think that this is ever so slightly better, and also keeps the illumination as a feature, which, I mean, I really love the illumination on these cars. I do think that it's a characteristic feature of these cars. Lastly, I meant to do a video on this, which is I got this device called Bluebus. And what it does is it brings Bluetooth connectivity and some other features to your old BMW. If I press this right here, this is the menu that you get. I'm not going to play any music because it's mostly copyrighted, but as you can see here, Bluetooth. It simply replaces the CD changer, and now I get Bluetooth on this puppy, which, considering that this car has Harman Kardon speakers, which, yes, a bit old, but they still sound good enough. I mean, it's a godsend. One of the last mods that I did, and I absolutely adore it. It keeps the OEM-ness of the car, and it's very easy to install. That wraps up the mods that I did and that I can show you. If there is something that you want to know about specific mods that I did, do ask away in the comment section. Let me start again by the boring stuff. At heart, this is a 3 Series coupe. Yes, it is a coupe, so inherently it is less practical than the sedan and even more so the Touring. But it is nonetheless a 3 Series. So in terms of infotainment, which, I mean, it's a bit old, but it still has what you'd expect, and I added to that with my Bluetooth. In terms of speakers, this car has Harman Kardon. They are a bit on the old side, but they still do a great job at keeping you entertained, because yes, this is a sports car, but you still want to listen to some music when you're driving with someone else or when you're just in traffic, because yes, this car is good for all of that, for traffic, casual trips, for trips to the shops. The seats, they are very comfy. After a long time, your back starts to hurt a little bit, but I think that's mostly true of most seats. And it also has to do a little bit with every person's body and the pains that they have been collecting over the years. The back seats, for example, they are okay. For children, they're perfectly fine. For average-sized adults, I think they are okay as well. They're not the greatest place to be. Sitting behind myself is not ideal. I lack headroom, I lack knee room as well. It's not ideal, but for a short trip I would be perfectly fine. And I do think that I'm slightly above average height. So your average adult or your son, he hasn't had a growing spurt all too soon, he will be fine in the back of this car. Ultimately, it's still a practical car. While I'm still in the topic of the seats, one thing that they're not all that great, or two things actually, is how they hold you when you're on track. So for spirited driving, they are fine. If you go on track, you will soon discover the limits of these bolsters, because they do not hold you in place as much as you'd like. And also the legs, the leg bolsters, they are not all that good. But the worst of it all for me is the seating position. Being 188 centimeters, the driving position is atrocious. It's really bad actually. So I sit on the car, not in the car, which is, I mean, it's not ideal at all. It is one of the mods that I really want to do. If I keep this car longer, it is undoubtedly something that I will want to do, because to me this driving position it's very bad. In terms of everyday use, this car is, I mean, it's perfectly usable. In terms of creature comforts, it's got a good amount of things. And in terms of build quality, it's not going to win any awards. Nonetheless, it is very well put together. The E46 platform has been aging very well. Materials have been holding up very well, except for some things like this, the glue on this headliner, but I think that's across the board from cars around this period. I don't know what they decided to do with the glues, but cars of this period, they do suffer a little bit from headliner sag. But the overall quality, the switch gear, the buttons, they all feel very, very nice. It's a very nice place to be. Having practicality and mods in one basket, I did personally diminish actually not necessarily me, but so I already bought the car with said practicality diminished, but having lower suspension on your car does decrease its practicality, because now you need to be more careful about the types of ramps that you take. This whole slew of things that now you need to pay attention that you did not before. The mods that I've done, two of the mods that I've done, they do decrease that practicality. What I get in return is a car that feels much nicer to drive, as well as being more aesthetically pleasing. This car lowered, to my eyes at least, it looks much, much better. Being lowered, there is basically no wheel gap. So it is a trade-off, but it is a trade-off worth doing. Would I do it again? I think so. This car is a sports car, but as I said, it's also a practical car. And sometimes what you do with practical cars is you just drive them slowly. You drive them in town. You drive them for a little trip. Considering that this could be your everyday car, your only car, to me, it feels sometimes underwhelming. And that might be because of its nature. So it is a naturally aspirated engine. Power builds as the revs climb. It does not have all that much torque down low. It's got enough torque, yes, but it's not a very punchy engine unless you punch the throttle very hard and you try to extract as much as possible from it. However, I also feel that it does depend a little bit on your current state of mind when you're driving the car. Let me explain. If you're looking for something very rowdy, very special, out of the box, this is not necessarily the best experience as such. A modern day M4 and M3 with its turbocharged engine that makes a lot of noise actually. It is more rowdy even at low speeds. When you're just driving in town, you can have that little bit of fizz by pressing the throttle and feeling the car pushing you forward. Whereas with this, not so. It really isn't all that special going slowly. But, and that brings me back to what I was saying, it does depend, I do think, on the person's current state of mind. Because if you are enjoying, if you are paying attention to the little details of the car, to the little nuances, it will put a smile on your face, even driving slowly. And so I do think that has a little bit to do with your current state of mind when you're driving the car. It isn't very special driving slowly. So when does it become special, you may ask, and rightly so. Well, it does help if you put 2 gears down. Start giving it some corners and you get close to the nearest car in 2 seconds. As I was saying, you drop a gear, you start driving it more briskly. You have this suspension doing a fantastic job of keeping contact between the tires and the road. That's exactly when this car comes alive. I'm having to concentrate a little bit since I don't really know the roads here. But that's when this car puts a smile on your face. When you get to heel into it, getting into a corner, feeling the back slide a little bit. when you start pulling in the revs, when you start rev matching, when you start getting closer and closer to its red line, that's when this car comes alive. So the way that it corners, remember, this is a 20-year-old car. Yes, it has more modern suspension, but it's a 20-year-old car. And let me put this into perspective. I get out of a modern Porsche. I get to drive this car again, and I do not feel in any shape or way that I'm getting a lesser experience. I'm getting actually a very motorsport experience. This engine, the way that it delivers power, yes, it does not have huge amounts of power, at least considering the power that we get these days from turbo engines. But the way that it delivers its power, it's so delicious, it's so sweet, it's so smooth and predictable. It's incredible. This gear shift, while yes, it is not perhaps the best gear shift in the business, it still brings a smile to your face. No questions asked. If you ask me, should I have this car as a manual or as an SMG, I would say every single day manual, and I haven't even driven an SMG. I don't need to drive an SMG. I am not saying that you're going to take corners at ludicrously high speeds, higher than modern sports cars. An M3 and M4, a modern M3 and M4 would walk away from this car like nothing. But the feel, the sensation that you get with this car, it's very honest. Steering, it's hydraulic, no electric assistance here. It's not the best feeling, yes, I know. The theme of this car is that it's not the best overall at everything, but it is very good at a lot of things. And this engine, it's a jewel of an engine. Also, you have a limited slip diff. If you want to play with the car, you can. So it's very versatile. That's the name of the game. I do think, in my mind, this car does a lot of things very well, and it puts a smile on your face. At least it puts a smile on my face. Rev matching. You can't do this with your SMG. Another incredible thing of this car is the throttle response. Individual throttle bodies, naturally aspirated 6-cylinder. I mean, it's very hard to beat it. You need to go very expensive these days to get something, or an engine that's as sweet as this. Throttle response, absolutely lightning fast. So much so that I think I get more slack in the drivetrain than I should because of such throttle response. Very violent, actually. It is not the most satisfying gearbox to use, but it is a very good manual gearbox that gives you heaps of control and allows you to do this, heel and toe, until your little heart is content. And just, it allows you to enjoy these roads. There is so much going on with this car and for this car that prices keep rising on these cars, and scarcity has something to do with it, yes, but also the driving experiences that you're getting these days with emissions, restrictions, all of that jargon. You do not get this type of driving experience anymore unless you go GT3 or something silly like that. This will be an unpopular opinion, but I do not know if I would have, for example, a Boxster or a Cayman over this car. This engine is really a masterpiece. The myth, the legend of the E46 M3, it came alive right then and there with revving the hell out of this engine, with putting it through its paces. That's what it's meant for. That you don't get that these days. You simply do not get that. Like rev matching this engine, it's so rewarding. You have no idea. If you've never driven one of these, I don't really think that videos do it justice at how good rev matching this engine is. Yeah, the 340 horsepower, they're plenty. They're not gonna set your world on fire, yes, but they're plenty to have fun. And the balance of this chassis, I mean, when I had the suspension corner balanced, it does have a 50-50 weight distribution. It is an old car, have no doubt about it, but it's no slouch. The front end grips, and do remember that you are seeing a modified car. The stock car is not going to be as good, but these are relatively easy mods to do, so you can achieve this with relative ease, and I do think that you're gonna like it. I do like how this car feels a lot. And yeah, you just had that fun over there, and now here you are going through town, not making that much noise, looking rather inconspicuous, to be honest, because most people don't even know what this is. This is just a regular BMW. And you get a tail-happy car. I mean, there are better cars, yes, but this car, I really like it. And the way it delivers its power, oh God, I love it. I really like this car. Listen to this! The pedals, they are, I mean, to me, they are perfectly placed for heel in tow. I can heel in tow without a problem. I love this car. I really do. It's bloody delicious. I think that's the best word to describe this car, delicious. All right now, if you'll excuse me, today's been a long day driving this car. I've come here to this, actually the landscape behind me is quite beautiful. It might be a little bit noisy, however, but I've come here just to wrap this up. Today was actually a day well spent. I got to drive this car a lot, getting in touch with its strong points, its weak points, and that all brings me down to my likes and dislikes. And don't mind me, I'm gonna keep building my sandwich. Starting with my dislikes. I mentioned briefly during the video that the driving position is actually, it's atrocious. you sit on the car instead of in the car. I have this one episode where I went to drive a Carrera 4 that Porsche lent me, a 992. I drove it for 1 or 2 days, and then when I went to pick up my car again, I sat on the seat, and the first thing that I did was reach out to lower the seat because it's ridiculously high. And when I went to lower it, I found out that it was already at the lowest position possible, my driving position. So the driving position, it's appalling to me. Another dislike, the fact that it's getting more and more expensive. So these cars are getting rarer and rarer. They are getting crashed, they are getting modded beyond repair. Some people use them as track tools. So they are getting more and more scarce, which causes the values to rise. And that's not a good thing, at least to me, because whenever I'm driving, I have always in the back of my mind, if I crash this car, I'm gonna lose a ton of money. And yeah, it's not ideal. I've sort of learned how to live with it, but this is no longer the very cheap car that you could get and have some fun. I don't really have many dislikes on this car, but I think that the fact that some of the parts are no longer available, it's gonna become an issue with time. If I drive it, things are gonna get broken, it's bound to be, and then a lot of parts will no longer be available, which maybe I'll get lucky and I'll find parts on eBay or the aftermarket, but that's one of my last drawback that I can think of, really, to be honest. Another slight drawback is what I spoke about, that sometimes driving it slowly isn't really the most special thing in the world. Where I live, I do not have the best roads to actually explore this car. I would love to have fun, to have a slightly more spicy experience just driving around town, something like that, because it would render the need for me to go and take a long drive, as I did today, unnecessary. But it is the way it is. Jumping onto likes, first and foremost, the engine, the S54 engine. It's a jewel of an engine, it's a masterpiece, revs all the way to 8,000, it happily revs to 8,000, and it rewards the driver for taking it there with such a melody and such a nice power delivery that, to me, it actually dominates much of the experience. Secondly, I love the way that the car is to drive. It's got an incredibly balanced chassis. BMW are renowned for their 50-50 weight distribution on many cars, and this car has it also. It's actually a delight to drive. Taking it around twisties, I think it feels more at home when the corners you can carry some speed through the corners. That's when I get the most reward out of it. Absolutely delicious, the engine and the way it drives. Another, to many, pointless positive is the way that it slides. It's very easy to slide, it's very predictable to slide, especially when it's wet. Despite having enough power, it doesn't have a lot of torque, so you cannot do big skids like you can in an M4, for example. But the way that it slides, the way that it's predictable, the way that the throttle builds power, incredible. Very nice to slide. Lastly, I think that one of my biggest likes is how people perceive this car. So they're not looking at a flashy car, they're looking at an icon, basically. When the majority of people that I see looking at this car, they look at it and they actually enjoy seeing this car. I don't usually see that car, and it's true, you don't really see these cars these days. I also love the fact that only people who actually know what this is respond to it, but I love the response that I get from people. Everybody loves this car. I'm driving around and people are giving me thumbs up. They don't hate me for driving this car, which is, I mean, it's nice. I often have this urge to sell this car because it needs a little bit of attention, at least with my level of OCD. If you are less pedantic than I am, perhaps ownership will be easier. But oftentimes I think, I'm gonna sell this car. But then I go ahead and I drive it properly and I fall completely in love with it again. It's an amazing car. It's my first actual sports car. To be honest, I don't really know with what I would replace it. Nothing that costs what this costs will give me what this gives and be a classic or a pre-classic like this car is. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing, as I'm trying to get this channel to 1 million subscribers. So now I'm gonna enjoy my sandwich and then I'm gonna drive this puppy home again, which is always nice. Hola, 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 come. Hola, hola.